Throughout the Dragon Ball story, audiences were introduced to a number of iconic villains. These antagonists push Goku and his friends to their limits and beyond, taking many of their lives and even destroying their world along the way. As is the nature of this franchise, these characters were always defeated, and those who didn't befriend Goku were typically killed off, never to return to the story. Except for Frieza, of course. That guy just can't help but keep coming back. He's basically entered Mum Ra territory at this point, or even worse, Skeletor. But what if I told you that some of these long-dead villains are actually still alive in alternate timelines, either wreaking havoc or waiting to make their move? Well, in this video, I'm going to discuss that. Make sure to subscribe and enable all notifications, so you can stay up to date with all of my videos. So the first villain that comes to mind when discussing this topic is the original time-traveling villain, Cell. Now to briefly explain, in Dragon Ball Z there were 4 timelines. In the original timeline, Goku died of the heart virus and the androids decimated the world, killing most of our heroes and causing the original Trunks and Bulma to resort to desperate measures. That is when Trunks went back in time to a timeline we never saw, giving Goku the heart virus medication, and helping the Z Fighters to defeat the androids. At which point he returned to his own world and defeated the original androids there, likely with Dr. Gero's remote control. 3 years later, he had refueled the time machine and was ready to go back to let everyone know that he succeeded. However, this is when Cell appeared and killed Trunks, stealing his time machine and going back to 1 year before Trunks originally arrived. Because he went back earlier, this created another timeline, the main timeline, where the main storyline takes place. Additionally, because Trunks had already altered the time stream to where he would appear 1 year later, this further created an alternate future known by fans as the History of Trunks timeline, complete with a new future Trunks, who encountered Cell in the past and was able to take this information to his own future.
Do you understand?
Yes.
Anyway, in 3 of these timelines, Cell was defeated and killed. First with the main timeline version being killed by Trunks while he was still in his test tube. Then Gohan killed Super Perfect Cell at the Cell Games. Finally, Trunks killed his own version of Cell 3 years after defeating 17 and 18. However, this still leaves one Cell alive, with that being the Cell from the Unseen timeline. Now the reason this Cell remains alive is because the future Cell was never present there. He would have only been able to go there had he shown up after Trunks originally arrived, because of how time travel works in this franchise. As a result, in that reality, no one ever learned about Cell or the secret bunker where he was being grown by Dr. Gero's computer. Now, there is a chance that they might have found the bunker while searching for the shutdown device blueprints. However, they only destroyed the secret lab in the main timeline after learning about Cell, so it's entirely possible that they would leave it intact just in case they needed more information later. Which means that Cell would still be growing for years after Goku and friends defeated the androids, and would be born after the end of Z. Additionally, this Cell might be far more powerful than the others, because if this timeline is anything like the main one, Gero's computer may have collected cells from the other villains and powerful characters who showed up afterward, such as the next ones I'll be talking about in this list, Babidi, Dabura, and Majin Buu. Now, Babidi and Dabura are 2 villains who we've seen defeated in multiple timelines. They first appeared in the main timeline 7 years after Gohan defeated Cell, and were successful in reviving Majin Buu. One really long mess of an arc later, all 3 were defeated and the original Z story came to an end. In Dragon Ball Super's Future Trunks timeline, they didn't make it quite so far, as Trunks was able to kill both Babidi and Dabura before they could revive Buu. Lots of people seem to think that they managed to, but chances are those people have only ever seen Super and poorly translated clips on YouTube. But if you do want a story where they actually succeeded, you can check out my What If video here. Now despite this, Babidi and Dabura may very well still be alive in the Unseen timeline, as after all we have no idea as to what transpired after the original Trunks left. Assuming that they defeated the Unseen androids using the remote shutdown device, then it's highly possible the Z Fighters never trained in the time chamber, and Goku never died to save the Earth from Cell. As a result, they may have been unable to defeat Babidi and Dabura once they arrived, and so they may have revived Buu and ravaged the timeline. although there is still a chance that they could survive thanks to their plot armor. However, if we take a look at the timeline with zero plot armor at all, the original timeline, it's likely that Babidi succeeded there. That's because no one was left alive on Earth to defend it from him and Deborah. Future Trunks was killed by Cell, so that means that whenever they showed up, Babidi would have his pick of the survivors of that world. If we go by the Super Manga, it seems that he would have been able to revive Buu from that population alone. So once Buu awoke, he likely ran wild across the universe, destroying the Earth and everything else in sight. He may have even managed to kill Supreme Kai before Beerus showed up, so unless he ran into Broly on planet Vampa and didn't manage to absorb him, that timeline is basically screwed right now. If only they sent Trunks there instead, like I discussed in my video here. This leads into another time-traveling villain, ZAMASU, who stole Goku's body and became Goku Black. In Dragon Ball Super, we met 3 alternate versions of this character, with those being Goku Black, Future ZAMASU, and Present ZAMASU. All 3 of these Supreme Kais were erased, with the first 2 being deleted by Zeno, and Present ZAMASU being Hakkai'd by Beerus. When Beerus did this, it created an alternate timeline where ZAMASU never became black.
Hold your fire! This man isn't black!
Very poor choice of words.
While the original was protected by the anomaly. Time travel really is a bitch. Anyway, there are still other Zamasus that exist in other timelines, such as the Zamasu of the Unseen timeline and the original. Now, depending upon how things turned out in those timelines, chances are that Zamasu never turned evil. That's because both the original Goku and Trunks are long dead, so Zamasu wouldn't have any catalyst to enact his plan. Furthermore, Majin Buu may have totally wiped out the mortals in Universe 7, so Zamasu may have seen his plan as less necessary when the universe already took care of that problem itself. So this means that he likely spent the remainders of his day making tea for Gawasu, while he recorded videos in a vain attempt to get ahead in the GodTube algorithm, only for space celebrities to come in with crappy talk shows that the website promoted over independent content creators with actual good content. Why does this sound so familiar? And then of course, there's Moro, the ancient magical being and planet eater who was once opposed by the Kais. After having his magic sealed away by the Grand Supreme Kai, Moro spent millions of years in the Galactic Patrol prison, waiting for his power to return so that he could escape and conquer the universe. In the main timeline, this sent him down a course to where he battled Goku and friends. However, what became of him in the other timelines is unknown. Obviously, in the original Future Trunks timeline, he was either erased by Zeno or killed by Black and Zamasu before his power returned. Although why it didn't happen sooner in that timeline is unknown. Almost like they had no idea this character existed while writing it. But in the others, he may still be waiting for his time to come. Now, it's likely that when he escapes, he would have an easier time enacting his plans, because in multiple timelines, Goku is long dead. If Goku was wished back in Black's original timeline, he may be permanently stuck in Zamasu's body, which would no doubt limit his power and potential. And in the new Future Trunks Back to the Future timeline, the odds are stacked in his favor, because despite there being 2 different Trunkses on that Earth, Moro is a threat that I'm doubtful they can overcome on their own. So unless Trunks watches a video of Mastered Ultra Instinct or Force Spirit Vision on his cell phone, chances are he's gonna get drained by Moro faster than Mai ever could. As for those who may still be alive, there's also the possibility that in one of these timelines, Frieza was revived by the remnants of his forces. As we saw in Resurrection F, Frieza's forces were searching for new Namek in order to find their Dragon Balls and wish back Frieza, so that they could take control of their empire back. However, they were unable to find the planet and instead went to Earth to use their Dragon Balls. It's possible that this could have happened in the Unseen timeline, assuming the world wasn't destroyed by Deborah or Majin Buu. However, in the timelines where there are no Dragon Balls on Earth, such as the original and new Future Trunks, this is a lot more difficult. Could they bring him back before their forces and influence completely collapsed? If so, what would become of him? Maybe one day we'll find out. Now, as for the movie continuity in Dragon Ball GT, a number of these villains would likely remain alive as well, such as Bojack, who would still be trapped inside of the Kai prison along with his crew. Then there's Hoi, the evil wizard from Wrath of the Dragon who wanted to bring back Hirudegarn. And of course, Dr. Miyu along with Baby, who would continue to grow in his pod until he reaches full maturity, and is ready to enact his plan. And this would also go for a number of other villains from after the Cell Saga, assuming that they weren't all killed off by Buu or someone else in the future. And there's also another thing that could drastically change up this dynamic, which is the Universe 12 time traveler. In the Dragon Ball Super manga, ZAMASU mentioned that someone in Universe 12 actually time traveled before Trunks, creating another timeline. However, when this happened or why was never explained. Could they have affected the timeline so these characters or others are still alive? Or is it just a big plot hole that was quickly swept under the rug and undermined pretty much everything we were told before? I'll let you decide, but the answer is yes. So this has been Dragon Ball villains who are alive in other timelines. Now, will any of these villains return to the story in the future through time travel shenanigans? It's entirely possible. At least if those writing the story are even aware of this. It would be a way to logically bring back Cell, and basically give us a Thanos from Endgame version of the character, who may not have directly interacted with our version of the characters, but certainly knows of them, and even of his own death. But perhaps this is a little too fanciful for this franchise. After all, Dragon Ball is always moving forward, full steam ahead, and leaving those behind who came before.
Nothing stops this train. Nothing.
So even if they never return, at least we can take consolation that they're still around in another world. Thanks for watching, and make sure to stick around, because there's a lot more to come in the future.
Yeah, and you better subscribe.